Hello, everybody. Welcome to the You're Too Valuable podcast. This is Gregory, one of your hosts here for the You're Too Valuable podcast. It is great to be back. We had a great time in Montana or
For
Montana.
your 50th birthday?
Oh, it was not for my 50th birthday, but yes, it was my birthday while we were there, and I really appreciated the celebrations that we've had. So thank you
Awesome.
for
Happy
that.
birthday, Greg.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Well, if you're looking at the screen, you're going to see that we have somebody else in on the podcast today. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how things go today. But I wanted to give a good shout out to Robbie and Javier for last week's episode. It was really great. Can't wait to see what they said. But I will let the other hosts introduce themselves. Have at it.
Hey everyone, it's Jesse. It's good to be back. Had a great time away and relaxing with family in Montana, and really excited to listen to the episode with Javier and Robbie. Thanks so much for doing that. They had a great topic, so I've seen some really good clips come out of it so far, and looking forward to listening to the whole thing here when it launches on Monday.
Yeah, you guys left me with 3 times the work, but it was worth it. So I'm glad you guys got to have fun on Greg's birthday. Glad you guys got a good vacation out of it. I'm Robbie. Glad you guys are joining us. Last week was a lot of fun. I'm excited for this week because I've got a dear friend of mine, Lauren Rowe. I've known her for 15 years. We've worked in telecommunications together. We've seen all the bullshit together. We've seen all the funds, the highs, the lows. Lauren has a beautiful family. I've gone on vacation with her family before.
Sorry,
Lauren, introduce
I know
yourself.
That's got to be rough. That's got to be rough having Robbie on those vacations.
I have to tell you, one vacation in particular, that would have been the high point. So don't even worry about it. Hi, guys. I am Lauren Rowe. I spent 15 years in mobility. I've spent the last 19, 20 years in sales in general. Mom of 2 under 10, and working has been such an adventure in sales the whole time. My husband also works in sales, and truthfully, there's nothing as strong as a trauma bond, whether it is for friendship or marriage or what it is.
Sales is trauma?
I mean,
we
some places, yeah. Some places.
So based on that conversation or that statement, I think that's a yes to our listeners out there. It looks like a yes. It sounds like a yes.
I love that for this because this week's episode is from the trenches, protecting your health and peace. I love that you started out with that. So we're already off to a great start. Talk to us a little bit about some of the like your most notable story, like in terms of a trauma bond story that you've had with Brian.
Oh gosh. I mean, nothing brings 2 people together like a mutual distaste for bad management. And we actually worked at the same company originally. That's how we met. So that one was an easy one, but I would say most recently, a few years back in 2022, my mom passed away suddenly from a heart attack, which, as most heart attacks go, you just don't see it coming, right? And I went from taking a couple of days off work to help her do stuff in the hospital to obviously needing bereavement leave. And 2022, we were all fresh off the COVID train of leaves and things like that. And the amount of times that I had to fight to secure my leave for my mom passing away, dealing with funeral preparations, dealing with all those things, was ridiculous. He worked in a different department at the same company, and he had a good manager at the time. So his manager was very much, hey, whatever you need to do, it's good to go. I actually had an area manager look at my numbers, and my then store manager apparently did not disclose that the reason why I was missing so much work was because my mom had died. So my area manager started to confront everybody and ask what it was that was going on with me. When would I get my head out of my ass and perform the way that I normally should? And oh yeah,
Wow.
it was so great. It was so great. And one of my
Yeah.
friends, who was a visiting store manager at the time, was like, "Well, her mom died like 2 months ago." And his response was,
Wow.
"Well, eventually you have to just accept that and like do your job, right?"
No way. There,
Yeah.
that could not have been the actual answer from your regional.
Oh yeah.
I actually have a very similar story that I've talked about on a very like 2 episodes ago, Greg.
Yeah.
Wow, this is just really
And I was
shocking
called.
to me.
I was called out in front of my entire region.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that story, but it's you, Robbie, and you know
Now
I
we're
don't care about
seeing
Robbie.
a perfect
You know,
example about how
Oh,
HR is kept in the
asshole.
dark and really not
No.
even given a, they don't even see everything that happens because they're put in a corner.
That's a really, really tough story to have to rewind back in your head. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. But what were you saying?
Oh, I was just gonna say, at the time, the manager that I had, he was a nepotism hire, anyways, right? We've all worked for
Oh.
those to begin with, and truthfully,
Mhm.
I think he saw like withholding that information about me as a chance to justify the store's low numbers, and also he was kind of hoping that nobody else would mention out loud that my mom had died, because he and I just didn't really vibe at that particular time to begin with. So I like
Yeah.
so it's almost like he
looking
wanted
back
you
on
to
it, it
fail,
seems like it
or
was a little strategic that nobody else knew. And the
yeah,
excuse I got afterwards was, "Well, I don't think that was my news to
Wow.
share." And I was like, "Oh, yeah. Yes. Typically, as a manager, you would tell everybody above you why I was suddenly not doing the things that I normally do." Yeah, that would have been your literal job, bro. But thanks.
Yeah.
wow.
Absolutely. That's crazy.
Well, as
It's
somebody in the HR field and HR environment and world, I would have to say I apologize on their behalf, because that is awful. I can't believe that actually happened. Not to Robbie, because it's Robbie again, but for you, I really apologize about that, because
Thank you.
that's really sad. And everybody should know that if you're going through that type of situation and you're having a death in the family, that's something that you should be taking your time off to not enjoy. I was going to say enjoy, to
Well,
work through, and
yeah.
to celebrate their life and go through there, and not to worry about work. That's crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they were extra insulted the year before I ended up winning an award for sales, and so they were just assuming I was going to repeat it, and I threw a wrench in their plans. So, my bad.
Yeah. And you impacted their credibility with their
yeah.
leaders.
And their
but-
bonuses, right?
and
Because you get paid up.
No, I've talked about a similar story about 2 episodes ago, and it was about the time that I started to make the decision, like, is this really the place that I see myself for the rest of my career? And
Mhm.
I ultimately made the decision after 12 years to say, fuck this place. I'm out.
Well, one thing that I have to say is, folks, if you're having this problem that both Robbie and Lauren are talking about, please reach out to your human resources department, because, as Jesse said, as all of them have said, we in HR may not even know what the heck is going on.
Oh, no.
There might be policies in place and stuff like that. We may not know. We may not have been given that information either. And that's something that we definitely want to know about, because we want to make sure you're taking that time off in order to grieve, and make sure that you're doing for you, and then make sure that these regionals and managers that are like this are not doing that. Wow.
Well,
hindsight is 2020. I'll go ahead, Lauren.
Well, I was just going to say, I think to that point, I mean, at that company, at that level, like, I was considered entry-level sales, right? And it is pounded into your head when you are entry-level sales that you follow the chain of command. So they spend a
Right.
lot of time drilling that into your head. If you have a problem, you should report it to your manager, who should report it to their manager, and so on and so forth. And they make it pretty known that if you ever want to go outside of that chain, it's your head on the platter. And they actually make that a bit toxic. There's a lot of I love the ideology that I think Greg, you're so sweet, and this is going to be so mean. HR sits in their beautiful white castle, and they look down, and they have this super fun way of thinking the way that things are going to work. And I don't know who's feeding you the lip service of absolute bullshit up there in that castle, but when you get all the way down to like the bottom to where we are, there is
us peasants.
There is no way. If you anonymously report it to HR, then you can't get anybody on the hook for retaliation. But if you report it to HR out loud and you put your name on it, you are asking for retaliation. And this idea of, oh, well, we don't allow retaliation here and we protect our team and yada, yada. I have never, ever one time seen that work in anybody's favor. And I was part of a union at one point, dude. I appreciate the gesture of reporting to HR, but I don't know how you would.
I want to know, Jesse, would you say that's kind of like the same thing, that your people are told to follow the chain of command, and that if they don't, that it, can be retaliated against?
But it's not necessarily that they're obviously told that there's retaliation that's coming their way, but the main reason that it gets said like that to employees is because you don't want a lower level employee coming up to me or my boss who's higher level, because we just don't have the time for you. And so you have to follow that chain of command, so you're not putting too much on other people's plates who shouldn't have to deal with the low level people. That's the absurd thing about it, and that's the main reason why that chain of command is quote unquote put into place, is to protect from the people who are higher up that have all this more responsibilities than anybody else. And that's 9 times out of 10 why someone gets pissed about it, because it's like, well, you're way down on the totem pole. Why are you coming to me about this? This is absurd. Like, you should be talking. Did you talk directly to your manager about this already? And then it turns into a toxic.
That's crazy, because you should just be able to be welcome to go and be able to talk to human resources and go directly to them. I don't understand that. I don't. And as somebody who's been in HR for quite a while, I want the low level. I don't even like saying that. I want any employee
down at the bottom of the mountain. That down at the bottom of the mountain Lauren was talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Let me ask you a question, Lauren. I want to ask you a quick question. What did you do in that very moment, and how long did you remain with the company after that took place?
Oh gosh, I didn't leave that company for another 3 years. Like I said, trauma bonds they'll hold you in place, and we are so taught that the devil is better, right? That is such a social ingrainment. The devil is better than the one that you don't, because at least you have kind of an idea of where it's going to go. So yeah, I actually stuck around for another 3 years. I would say that after that point, I mean, I'm not a very filtered person to begin with. But after
no, you're
that
not.
point, it became a whole lot of fight me mentality for me, where it was like, actually, I dare you. Go ahead. I also decided in that moment that I would make it my mission. And this is something that I have learned. And I would pass on, especially to women in sales, because we get looked at even harsher with that, right? Like if I cry to HR, I'm just proving the stereotype that women are too emotional to be in a field dominated by men. And so there's that. Yeah. I started to make it my mission to, anytime I encountered a manager like that didn't like me, I just made sure every single one of their peers did. I went out of my way to bond with them as a human. And I went out of my way to make friends with their peers, and typically at least one superior to them, because I realized very quickly, eventually they were going to be in a room with those people, and they were going to start saying things like, oh my God, I have this one rep that just drives me nuts, and she does this and she does that, and everybody's going to be right along with them. And then they would be like, who is it? And they'd be like, well, it's Lauren Rowe, and 7 people around them would go, what? No, I think you're the problem. So a little bit of like a reverse circle trick for that. But I did. I stuck around at the company for another 3 years. I did transfer stores within like 2 months of that, because one of the benefits of working for a massive corporation in sales is that there's always a new space for you to go. So I took advantage of that, and I transferred locations just to give myself a mental break, because sometimes, as much as you would love to just be able to throw in the towel, you have 2 kids and a mortgage and dinner to put on the table. And we don't live in a society where a single income household can usually do it. So I just kind of made the best of a shit pie and moved as far away as I could for as long as I needed to until I could face them again.
Greg, what do you got? I know I can see your face over there. You look concerned. So ask your questions, my man.
No, I'm still just very floored and shocked by all the stories that I'm hearing. And as somebody who's very much thanks, I appreciate it. I don't know. I'm just, it hurts me on the inside. It hurts my soul because of the way that is, and that should not be. And it really does hurt.
Yeah. And it's funny because similar to the way that it happened for me, I felt betrayed. Like, I felt a level of betrayal that, I've dedicated my life to an organization. I moved my family across the country. I did all of these things despite, not wanting to really be in that type of market. And I did it because I loved the company. And to have that happen within my first year of relocation, I was like, I got the ick. I got the absolute ick, and I got the hell out of it. It took me 2 years, and I walked away without question. Let me ask you a question really quickly, Lauren. What is an individual contributor, not just in that company, but just kind of reflecting back on your entire working career in sales.
Yeah.
What do you do to set boundaries without losing performance? Because there's a really fine line, so I'd really like to get a good idea of like what you do in those particular situations.
Yeah, well, it's all new, and it's all based on that, right? Because I felt the exact same way that you were talking about, where it was like, how could I handle the level of betrayal from a company that I had gone in extra days. I had missed birthdays for my kids. I had missed volleyball games. I had missed watching them open, Christmas presents sometimes, because I worked late on Christmas Eve, and I did all of these things. And that was a real big wake up call for me. Not just like the death of my mom, but the way that it was handled by a corporation really put into perspective, no matter how much you might like some of the people that you work with, when you're at a corporation, you really are just your employee number. And there are a couple of people that'll make it bearable, but you're just your employee ID to them. And so I had to really go through and learn boundaries. And there are things that I still have to learn today. I'm in a totally different field in sales, and I walked into it with boundaries that I knew that I needed. So for me, I have a work phone and a personal phone. That is probably one of the biggest and easiest boundaries that I can set. I do not have the ability, whether it's my ADHD or just my propensity to want to like help others, I don't have the ability to ignore somebody asking me for help, right? And when employers or coworkers have my personal number, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. And my husband and I argue about this at least once a quarter. It does not matter what I'm doing. I will drop everything to respond to this human on the other end of the line. So a really big and easy boundary that I set was I have a work phone and I have a personal phone. And as soon as I get in front of my house, I shut my work phone off. I don't just leave it on silent. I can't. And it is hard. Oh my God, it is hard. The industry that I'm in now, I get paid so much better. And so it's extra hard for me to like ignore clients. But yeah, I do. I shut it off. And That is probably the biggest and easiest boundary for me. The other thing that I do, and I've had to do it recently, because people are people. No matter how much you love people, you should always expect them to be themselves, right? And I have quit waiting for them to notice that what they did was stupid, and quit waiting for them to notice that what they did was like out of pocket. And if it bothers me enough that I feel like I want to scream in their face, then I feel like that bothers me enough that they need to know to not do it twice. So I've quit. It's not like I'm overly bitchy at work, but I can tell you that everybody within 6 months of working with me understands the expectations that I have of like how you will talk to me and how you will treat me. And my performance speaks for itself. So unless you feel like you can actually make my performance better, maybe keep your suggestions to things that you know more about. I don't know how that
Oh, I love that. I love that. Lauren, I think that you and I, we worked together at a time when we were kind of young adults, and we didn't really understand. Yeah, we didn't understand those boundaries and really what that looked like. And I feel like there's a lot of young people, especially people that I coach on a weekly basis, where they're constantly just being like run into the ground because they have no understanding. And that's why a lot of ageism is alive and well, even though it's illegal. That's why I definitely see it, that people are going after the young bucks that don't really know how to say no, and they can be run into the ground and worked extra overtime and really just not ask any questions. So I'm glad that you were able to set those boundaries.
I completely agree with that, Robbie. And I was going to ask, all of you this question is, do you think it has to do with the naiveness of a young person in the working world that doesn't know how to stand up for themselves and is worried because, for most of them, this job is between sleeping out on the street or having a warm bed to sleep in, or, actually having food to eat or gas money to actually get to said work or job. And so, I've got family who, if they spoke up, they would feel like they would be fired. And if they did that, then, what heck would go on with them? How would they live? And I've had this conversation before with somebody at work that is, if we are grown up that way inside of the school world, which is do as I say, not as I do, listen to me, follow my instructions, and
don't call out and get an award for never calling out.
Right. And then, that's how we're expected to work and deal with in working environment. I don't know if I don't necessarily agree with all of that, because that's just, I've gotten in trouble many of times because I've been outspoken, definitely an outspoken person. And so, I just, it's really concerning. And how do we change that kind of mentality in that work environment, in that environment period?
Yeah. And then something I want to ask is how do we change it? Like, what do we do? What do we look at from a high level overview? Is it even possible to be changed? Is it ever going to be changed, because we're technically under the thumbs of these corporations in the first place?
I honestly think that until the person, so like speaking from a wireless industry perspective and the hierarchy of where it would need to go. Anybody listening that's in wireless sales, that means that all of you have what would be referred to as like a VPGM or president of the West or whatever it is. Until that person is prepared to recognize that sales expectations will never be important than the salespeople achieving them, I don't think you can.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't really quite understand that.
So,
so they look at their people as a good investment.
Yeah. Yes. And they can offer all the EAP help that they want to, but everybody is shunned for taking that time, right? If you need to take time off, if I need to take time off to take care of my children right now, I mean, I'm in a commission only position now. And so they like to advertise those as unlimited time off, right? You get unlimited PTO because, well, you make your own paycheck. And I absolutely do have much more work autonomy than I did when I was in a corporate sales position, but it still is villainized to take that time. It is villainized to set those boundaries. And I don't know that there's a really quick and easy answer as to how you change it. Yeah, when I was a little baby salesperson in my early 20s, I was just like that. I was terrified to rock the boat. I was terrified what happens if, and that goes right back to the devil that you know. And until there are actual safeguards put in place by somebody with a much higher power, especially in a sales position, I don't know that you can teach those brand new entry level people that. We all spend so much time saying things like, oh yeah, but once you make it to year 5, they really let up. All you have to do is just be browbeat for the next 5 years, and then you'll be fine. And what a crock of shit, by the way, because you're not ever fine. You just quit listening.
So, okay, this is in sales, and I really appreciate the sales perspective of it, because sales is very, very difficult. I myself am not a salesperson. That's what recruitment does. I don't do sales, so I'm not sales whatsoever.
Well, you kind of sell people on the company.
I'm interested in kind of the management aspects when it comes to like hospitality and stuff like that. Because Jesse, I know you work. You've been in sales, director of sales. You've been the director of the entire, or general manager. I get it right.
The director of operations.
Yeah, director of operations, things like that. How do you think that this is reflective in that type of environment and that type of workforce?
Thinking about like having boundaries and versus performance and stuff. I mean, you at the end of the day, we have to get the job done. And working in hotels, like we got to get the rooms clean, otherwise we don't have them ready to sell to the next guest. So, or working in having a restaurant, like we got to get the food prepped. Like, I mean, if I don't have a person that's there to do it, then I'm the one that's doing it. And that's a big reason why a lot of people stay out of this industry, because if a lot of issues that don't get done, it ends up falling back on you. So it's funny for me to talk about boundaries, because it's like I can put boundaries in place and have in my mind what may push me to my breaking point. But in reality, that point has been crossed multiple times in my career. And being that one who constantly has to have their phone on and working in a industry that's 24/7, 365 days a week, we don't turn off at all. And so for me, like I almost had to adjust my boundaries, unfortunately, but through that I was able to kind of grow personally. But it's hard. At the end of the day, you have to decide what is best for you and your family, and try to explore other opportunities if you're working in a space that's not allowing you to have those boundaries. But for me, working up through my career, it was just I had to adjust my boundaries in order to keep performing.
Yeah. Let me, I want to talk about, some of the impacts of when you set boundaries, like you start to kind of to build yourself up, right? You've come out of a really toxic conversation, very similar to what Lauren and I experienced. And you start to like, man, fuck this. Like, why is this?
Watch your language.
Watch your shirt.
Hey, I love my shirt. I can't believe you said that. My shirt is fantastic. I have not been able to wear this shirt for probably about 10 years. And
we know since the Y2K epidemic, right?
Whatever. Anyway. It's a great shirt. I love it. It's been one of my favorites. That's why I've kept it for so long.
I love you, Greg. I love you, Greg. Anyway, I want to talk about, the signs of burnout. And Lauren, did you experience, because I've told about my personal story, I want to get a perspective from you. You're obviously the guest. Talk to us a little bit about, what kind of emotions that you dealt with. Did you experience just not wanting to be at work? Anything like that?
What do you guys call it in HR, Greg? Quiet quitting, right? Is that the term that they
Yep.
call it?
Oh, we had a whole
yeah.
episode on quiet quitting. Yeah.
I'm sure they would have loved it if I was quiet about it, right?
Oh my word! It wasn't quiet.
Dear God, the burnout. And even like outside of that time with my mom passing away, right? I've worked across multiple companies, and you reach burnout at all of them. I read somewhere one time that like you're supposed to change job once every 3 years, or you're underpaid wherever you are. And I almost think that you have to change jobs once every 3 years, because otherwise you're gonna explode from the burnout. No matter what you do.
What are some of the signs? What are some of the signs?
Some of the signs, yeah. If you, this is going to be like, you might be a redneck, right? So if when your alarm goes off, you would rather break your phone in half than put on a work shirt, you might have burnout. If when you are driving to work and you pray that your engine explodes on the way, you might have burnout. If when you clock in, you pray you're going to experience an armed robbery to shut down the store for a couple of days, you might have burnout. No, I mean, like, honestly, you spend more time when you hit burnout, you spend more time just fantasizing and dreaming about ways that your work would no longer exist. That's a surefire sign. And there are like little signs that lead up to it, but I think that that's probably for most of us when we realize like shit has to change, right? Little signs that led up to it.
Yeah.
I'm sure my husband could give a much better testimony, or even my kids. I know that I wasn't even checked in at home anymore. I would come home just pre-exhausted. I wouldn't be able to engage here. I wouldn't, I would do my best to still be a mom and be a wife, but to be honest, you adopt this like tiny fuck it mentality of I've only got enough time and energy for one thing. And no, I watched it. I watched it come all the way out of my mouth. I said, fuck it mentality. And I
oh my gosh! Like when? Yes, I'm saying this to our guest too.
And you do.
Yeah.
Do you remember the Zoloft commercials back in like the early 2000s where it was like the sad little blob that would bounce across the screen?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, and he would like ignore the ball
with the cloud.
Yeah.
With the cloud. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you feel that. You know, no matter how much you sleep, you're still tired. No matter how good you are at your job, you still hate the idea of doing it. And it gets to the point where it's the, what is it, like the boiling lobster effect, where suddenly you just realize it's so hot and you have to leave. Recognizing the signs of burnout. Yeah. I think the second you start questioning if you have burnout or not, you probably do have it.
Yeah, I agree.
That's true. Yeah.
Let me ask you really quickly, Lauren, like what, from your perspective, I know you've had some leadership roles before. What should managers look for people that don't know how to express themselves? People that, have a change in their overall demeanor while they're in the workplace, or they're changing their overall attitude, or the way that they interact with their coworkers or with customers, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah. I mean, my best advice that I can give, because I do love being in management, even though it's a little bit more stressful, I enjoy it. The first thing that I would say to any managers that are listening, be the manager you wish you had when you started your job. Not the manager that you wish you had right now. Be the manager you wish you had when you started your job. Because that manager is completely different than the manager that you need right now. And most of your employees have just started their jobs. Do better. When it comes to like what you should look for to see if your employees are burning out, again, don't look at them as an employee ID. These people are going to come in when you're short-staffed. These people are going to give you their best efforts if you give it back to them. Get to know them. You don't have to memorize everything about them. You really don't, but you should be able to get to know them on a level that you can recognize when their personality has been off for more than, let's say, 3 or 4 days. Everybody gets an off day. Everybody gets an off week, for that matter. But if you notice that somebody has like a genuine personality difference for longer than, let's say, a week, something's up. Like you need to be checking in on that. And I know way too many managers that will ignore it because they don't want to devote the time to it. They don't want to devote the effort to it. Worse, they don't want to find out that they're right and their employee hates their job all of a sudden, right? They are all so terrified to ask, hey, are you doing okay at work? Do you still like what you do? Because they already know the answer will be no. And then their mind starts spinning, well, if I let them...
put on your happy face!
Yeah. If I let them voice that they don't like this job, then what's that going to do to me? What's that going to do to the rest of the team? I need to remind them all the reasons why they like this job. Knock it off. You are a human. They are a human. For the love of God, treat them as one. That should not be a concept.
Yeah.
That should not be like a novelty. That, to be honest, for anybody listening, that should not even be an aha moment. If that's an aha moment for you, that you just heard me say, treat them like a human, take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, what in the actual fuck have you been doing this entire time? Like, no.
Yeah, I agree. Greg, I want to ask you, from 2 different perspectives.
Yeah.
Your HR perspective, what are the signs that you look out for?
Lauren definitely picked up on a lot of them, which I really appreciate that. And that was being able to notice and see differences in behavior, whether it's your overall sales, your personality, if you're pulling back a little bit, if you're actually becoming a little bit more vocal than you normally are. Anything that's pretty drastic outside of your norm, and that's what you want to listen to figure out, see if that's actually the truth, and don't ignore it. Don't ignore what that's happening. Don't assume what is going on in an employee's life or assume what they're doing, because it's not necessarily something that is bad. It's just affecting their overall work. And so it's okay to ask questions without assuming, and if the employee doesn't want to tell you that, then that's fine. They don't have to, but you can let them know, hey, this is affecting your performance. Let's chat about it so that way we can iron it out. And, for those managers who don't know how to do that, without stepping on HIPAA violations, without going into breaking the law and things like that, come talk to us. Man, I feel so weird talking today because I think Lauren's just going to back at me, and I'm like a little scared to say anything.
I love it.
It's just like, just talk to us as your managers, because it can be difficult. And, I can tell you, even in an HR world, it's difficult because sometimes we don't even know what to say, and that's something that we tend to kind of bounce ideas off of other HR people, because it's something that we want to make sure that we're not stepping over boundaries as well.
Greg, here's my perspective. Can I give you some perspective just really quickly? I feel like companies they've desensitized the conversation about being human. They've put it in a packet and told people to go read the policy, and there's really there's no like company 30-minute segments like every half year, every 6 months, every year for that matter, where they're talking about, like, we understand that life happens. We understand that, people close to you pass away. We understand that, those impact emotions, they impact your ability to perform at a high level. We're here for you. Could you imagine what that would do for an entire workforce, seeing like higher level management, seeing HR involved in those types of conversations? Just that effort alone, I think, would make all the difference in the world.
And not
call me crazy. I don't know.
I was just going to say, for the love of God, do not send out
Go ahead,
another
Lauren.
certified training that employees have to take that say that they understand how to recognize the signs and symptoms of burnout in themselves and how to report it properly through your HR hotline. Shut up. Don't. If you're going to have those conversations, go have them.
Then explain to me, how do we get the word out like that? Because we try to send out those trainings.
He just told you,
I just
go
gave
and
you the
say
answer.
it. Oh my God. I'll tell you the same thing I tell my kids. Turn on your listening ears, Greg. Just go and say it. Like, don't. I get
My
it's not
listening
feasible
ears
to go
are
across the
typically
entire
on.
country, but it is feasible. I mean, you guys have a much larger budget than anybody else. It is completely feasible for you to do
I think Greg's
a whole in-person thing at least once a quarter somewhere. Like, no more stupid trainings that at the end of it that you certify.
Greg's gonna put some bourbon in that cup. You know, I want to talk about strategies of protecting your peace. That's one of the main, words that we have. And obviously we know that in corporate America, profits, Trump people profits over everything else, especially in publicly traded companies. They have a fiduciary responsibility to produce a profit for their investors. If you look at the 2 major, 3 major, 4 major investors for all Fortune 500 companies, it's really the same 4 investment groups with the same representatives at the seats at the board. So companies are pretty blanketed across those organizations. What are some healthy boundaries that you can set, Lauren, from a woman's perspective in, a workplace, whether it's a male-dominated workplace or a female, it doesn't make a difference. What's your advice to the listeners?
First, I wouldn't be me if I didn't acknowledge. I'm so surprised to hear that the same boards control multiple Fortune 500 companies. Wow, that's unheard of. I'm sorry, I was so just mentally snarky about that while you were talking. What do you want to know? What they can do to protect themselves?
Yeah. What can people do to protect themselves? What can they do to protect their peace, set boundaries, and really just put realistic things in place to protect their peace?
Pick one thing. And maybe that sounds overly simple, but pick one thing. For me, it's the 2 phones, right? But start by picking one thing, because if you get so busy figuring out all the boundaries that have been stepped on, first you'll cry a lot, and you should. Crying can be cathartic. But second, implementing multiple things at a time, no matter how much, even as women, we like to say that we are multitaskers. It is impossible to execute multiple things at a high level simultaneously. It's impossible, scientifically, biologically, whatever. Pick one thing. Pick your biggest, truest pain point, and really ask yourself if that's something you can set a boundary on to fix. For me, it was feeling like I need to be made available to everybody else all the time. And how could I possibly stop being available? They're calling me. What am I supposed to do? They're calling me to ask me for help. So I got a different phone and I shut it off. So the best advice I could...
I want to ask you... Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say the best advice I can give is to pick one thing and put a boundary around that. And once that boundary is firm and secure, and remember, boundaries are not always bad. I feel like we get told all the time that boundaries are like this do not cross big bad line. They're not. Boundaries are just as much in place. My boundaries are just as much in place for me as they are for those around me. And they are put in place as a positive thing of, hey, I want to be able to give you 100%. And the way that I can do that is if we play inside of these lines right here. And that is okay. That is totally okay to do. You should do that. Everything in the world has boundaries. Think about, I'm not sports, so I won't get too far into it. But if you think about a football field, right? It's football season, I think. If you think about a football field, it's got giant boundaries painted on the field. And if anybody at any time steps outside of those boundaries, the game stops. The game entirely stops for everybody. Why?
Love that
Why
analogy. I
would
love that
Good
analogy.
I might steal
Yeah,
that.
why would we have boundaries like that in an entertainment field that could stop everything? But we're not supposed to have boundaries
Yeah.
ourselves? That seems ridiculous.
And let me ask you, I don't know if you feel comfortable answering this, but did you take advantage of your EAP benefits?
Oh, hell yeah, I did. I
during
took
that
advantage
time?
of mine, and I took advantage of my husband's because we worked at the same company. And so between the two of us, I got like, I don't know, 30 free therapy sessions, and so did each of our kids. And you can do one. Here's the trick with EAPs, okay? Trick with EAPs. Oh, Greg, sorry. So you get one per reported incident. You get one EAP per reported incident.
Yep.
So if you report the first one for depression, you can use your EAP for that. And then once you run out, you can now say you have anxiety. And you can run the EAP out for that. And once you run the EAP out for that, you can say that you are experiencing high levels of grief. Like, you can keep going as long as you aren't dumb enough to
I
list
love
it all
this.
in the first EAP. Again, pick one. Pick one.
Do not play your EAP program. It's there as a service
hell
to
out of
help,
it.
not as a permanent thing.
That is helpful. I
Play
am
the
But
hell out
use
of
your
it.
EAP.
It's unfair to say that they could have resolved all 7 problems in 12 sessions. That was trash. Each problem deserves its own 12 sessions.
No. I'm not okay. I'm not going to argue with this because
Because you'll
EAP
lose.
is there as a starting off point, and you're supposed to move to your own sessions and things like that. That's what EAP is for, to help start,
Yeah,
not do completely.
right. Because this isn't the cost
So
of
please
healthcare
don't.
podcast, right?
Oh,
So we're not going to talk about
So
how
that-
employers pay absolute trash benefits for mental health unless you're using an EAP. That's not this podcast, just to clarify.
Let me ask you
I
a
love
question
it.
really quickly, Greg. From your human perspective, I know you've talked about you sometimes have the ability to be a little bit more vocal than you should be.
Mhm.
I know you've walked away from situations. When from your human side, when was your just line in the sand? I'm walking away from this.
Yeah, one. I've got one that has happened to me that actually I have two for pretty much the same reason. It's whenever a company wants me to look away from something that's illegal, and that is against the law. I will not do that. I had one job where somebody was doing something illegal inside of in the place of business, and I'm like, I'm not doing with this. And I think it was Lauren or Jesse or somebody was talking about nepotism. This was a nepotism
Lauren.
hire, and
Yep.
and they were like, leave that person alone because they're family. And I'm like, this is not what you hired me for. And so I'm like, deuces. And I can't do that because it's just like, I'm not going to happen. Another employer was, hey, we're over charging our employees by like 2 cents every paycheck for their benefits because it wasn't calculated properly. And I like to go in and make sure my employees are paid accurately. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. And so they're like, oh, okay, well, thank you for finding out. Let's fix it. I'm like, okay, you've been doing this for the last 2 to 3 years. We need to go back and give these people that money. And they're like, nah, let's not do that. Let's just keep that money. And I'm like, you can't do that. That's something. So that's something that's illegal. That you're stealing money from an employer. You're allowing an employee to, you're stealing money from an employee. You're allowing an employee to do something illegal that is causing issues with or health issues or potential health issues with other parts of the company. No, not going to happen. So yeah, there's a couple of them that I've completely left because I'm like, I'm not doing it. And I have, I was brought up on some really good morals, and I thank my parents for that. And it's just not something I'm willing to look beyond. And that's why listening to some of your stories is hurtful, because it's just like, there's no way in the world that I could ever fathom seeing somebody or hearing somebody to do that about, because I would be completely hurt by it, and I am based on what you guys talked about.
Yeah. Jesse, I'd like you to talk a little bit about, a sustainable approach, because I know that you're kind of known as the guy that is the rebel without a cause, and you buck the system sometimes. I'm kind of right there with you. I'm very much that
Jesse
person.
buck the system. I don't know if I've ever seen him buck the system. If y'all only knew Jesse as well as I did.
I want to know, Jesse, what are some sustainable approaches, and what are some ways to to keep your job and not fall too victim of the corporate lip service shenanigans that HR sometimes pushes? What is your advice to the listeners?
Yeah, I think a big thing that I was going to talk about is that interview process, and making sure that you have a good amount of questions to ask your potential new employer, so that you can know and you can get some of those things out of the way that you may run into. Asking specific questions about the current status of the company, if you're concerned about what hours and the workload that you may be taking on. Ask them about what projects they're currently doing, how their staffing levels are. But I think a lot of people, they just kind of go with the flow for the interview process and don't think that they have an actual big part of it themselves. And you have that ability to really dive into some topics and get them talking instead of just listening to their narrative about what they're telling you the job is going to be like. And I don't think that a lot of people go very in depth into interviews, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, you're hired and thrown into the fire, and you're running around like, well, this is what I was expecting. It's like, well, did you ask those questions of things that you were expecting in your job? Um, but once you are in that position and then you are experiencing things that may not be going the way that you like. I mean, sometimes you just a big problem that we've always had in hotels is gossip, and gossip just it breeds all different types of negativity throughout other departments, especially when other departments are gossiping back and forth about each other. And then if you have a higher level manager who's going around and keeping that gossiping going and talking about the employees negatively, like you got to keep that stuff out of there. So my biggest kind of advice about that is like stay as far as you can away from gossip. If someone starts to go on about someone, get you backed into a corner, just nod your head and get out of it, because the more deeper you get into those conversations, I feel that it can breed additional negativity within the company.
I agree. Thank you for that perspective. And, something I want to encourage people, and, coming from my career development coach side, going away from the corporate people that are looking for new jobs, I give a lot of advice on what to look out for, because number one, if a company talks about our culture, that's a pretty good red flag. We got to find out why they talk about our culture, because obviously something's causing that culture to be the front and center of the talking point of everyone within the organization. So we got to find out. Number one, ask this question: why is this position open? That's a great question to ask.
That's a good one.
Ask when you're in the interview process, why is this position open? Did somebody get promoted? Oh, how long were they with the company? You can ask these questions. Don't be afraid to ask these questions, because you might be accepting a job offer at a place that's going to drive your mental health down the toilet bowl, and it's going to be a fucking disaster. Save yourself the headache.
Exactly.
Lauren, I want to ask you, what are some long-term strategies that you've used to protect your mental health? I know you and I are very much like use humor to protect our mental health. I know but that's not the case for everybody. I want to know what your perspective is and good advice for people in the workplace.
To just like make sure that you can kind of let things roll off Is that what you're wanting to know? Because things are just going to be said and done.
Yeah, just to,
I mean, first, again, I will always go back to knowing your boundaries, but I think knowing your boundaries, even just like Jesse was saying, just like you were saying in the interview process, right? Like from the very beginning, always interview your interviewer, because as much as they want to know that you're going to fit into the job, you need to make sure that the job fits into you. And if you're talking about like, how do you protect yourself on a daily basis, as long as you are constantly aware of those boundaries, that's a big thing. But I also think just understanding, like, words do hurt, and sometimes stress gets to be too much. Go into every day with like a self-check first, right? Before I go into work every day, I ask myself where my mental capacity is on a scale of 0 to 100. How much room do I have in my day? And that really sets for me what I know my limit to be true when I get into work, whether it's for the shit talking that we all do, whether it's for like customer escalations if you're in an industry that does that, whether it's for how much work I know I need to get done in comparison to how much time I have, whatever it is. Always, every single morning, even if it's on your drive to work, it doesn't matter. When I say like take me time, I would love to be able to tell everybody you should take at least 8 hours a month to yourself. Like, that's cool. Me time can actually be 5 minutes. Me time can be, just when I say do something for yourself every week, if you want to take a shower once a week that runs your hot water dry, do it. If you want to listen to really loud music on the way to work because that's what's going to jazz you up, do it. Do one thing for yourself every week, even if it's only for 5 minutes. And every single day, just take note of how much mental space you have and go into your day prepared to not overfill that space. That would be my best advice for it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Very, very good advice. I like that, Lauren. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greg, what do you got? I know that we can trauma bond together. Greg, I'd like to get your perspective on, what advice you give to people for protecting their mental health. I mean, obviously, I know the corporate lip service a little bit, but at the end of the day, I know you're a good guy. I've been friends with you for 20 years. I would not be your friend for 20 years if I didn't think you were a good guy. I want your perspective on what you would do in these situations, given that the real human answer.
Yeah, the human answer is take care of yourself as well. Just like Lauren was just echo what Lauren was just saying is you've got to take care of yourself. One, if you're not there for yourself and you're not taking care of yourself, how are you going to be there for the company that you're working for? And you have to be able to bring your whole self and your whole mentality and mental capabilities to you to work, because if it's not all there, then it's not going to be. I really, really loved what Lauren just said about taking 8 hours a week for yourself. That's a lot of time. It sounds like it's a lot of time.
A month. She said a month.
I did say a month.
Oh, a month. Oh, never mind. Okay. Well, 8 hours. So 8 hours a month. See, not listening again. Put it on my listening ears. Sorry. But it's taking that time to yourself to do that. For me, and I like how Lauren was talking about blaring the music. For me, I have nothing going on in my car. It's completely quiet, and it absolutely drives people up the wall when they ride with me, because I'm in complete silence. Love it. It allows me to kind of decompress, get in my head a little bit, and kind of clear those things out. And I know some people are like, why is it always so quiet in here and blah, blah, blah. But it's just like, that helps me. And it definitely gets me to calm down. And some of the times being able to drive into work, it allows me to take that time to kind of decompress as well.
Yeah.
Like allowing yourself to take that time for you in order to calm down is the best. And then use your benefits. I know I'm doing the corporate thing here. Use your benefits. go take some mental health days. We talked about that on an episode. Just take care of yourself. There are so many people. Okay, I have to tell this, and I hopefully, you know, if anybody's watching this and you know me, you've heard this before. Take care of yourself. Make sure you're doing what you need to do for yourself, and you're going to be there for everybody. And don't forget, this is just a job. There are thousands, millions of jobs that are.
Well, it's a really bad job market, so be careful with that one, Greg.
Well, yes,
it's the worst job market I've ever seen.
Okay, I will echo that for Robbie. It is a very, very difficult and hard job market, but it is a job. You know, there are other ones. There are other ones out there, and if it's not right for you, look for something else. Because sometimes companies are not right for you, and that's fine.
Yep.
Be comfortable with that.
Companies are going to try to burn you out, so you don't want to go look elsewhere. So you don't have the broadband or the bandwidth that we always talk about to go look for that other job.
Ooh, I like bandwidth.
I know you do. Well,
one of my favorite words.
Let's parking lot that. Okay, perfect. I love that for us. Needless to say, I want to talk just really quickly about something from my perspective in leadership. And it's actually touching a little bit on what Jesse was talking about. Know where you are if you're going to gossip, leaders. Know who you're in front of. If you're going to gossip, if you're going to talk about employees, know where the hell you are.
No, don't gossip at all.
Human. Stop it.
You know that's... You know that you
do not gossip. If you want to gossip, gossip with somebody outside of the company. Do not gossip with people at work.
Greg, you know that's not the case, and it starts in the fucking boardroom in those goddamn top of the fucking chain. You know it damn well, and that
I have no idea what you are talking about.
He doesn't know. He's in his White Castle.
I love that for us.
He has no idea. Everything's so pretty and perfect there,
Oh,
and we all just compliment each other, and we all just raise each other up, and we all call HR immediately if we feel like we're being taken advantage of.
Yep, Lord Gregory.
Thank you.
Lord Gregory the Third. Lord Gregory the Third from his castle. I love that. Perfect. All right. Well, we are getting close to time. Remember, guys, this episode was really fun. I had so much fun talking with you, Lauren. You know, I think that protecting your health and peace as survival is not necessarily healthy. It's not a luxury. It's a must.
Yeah.
You have to do it. You have to protect yourself. And like Greg said, it's just a job. You know, if for whatever reason, don't kill yourself for a job that will throw you to the wolves if you're not doing exactly the way that performing in the way that you were when a life event happens, similar to what happened to Lauren, to myself, to Jesse. Make sure to protect your peace. Take advantage of your resources. If any of you are in the market for a new home in northern Colorado, Lauren is your gal, and I'm gonna post up her phone. I'm gonna post up her email. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to her. Greg, what you got for us to close us out, my friend?
Well, I just want to say thank you very much, Lauren, for being here. It's been a pleasure to mostly listen to your stories and get some of your background. And so, otherwise, just continue to take care of yourself.
Absolutely. Jesse, what you got for us?
Well, again, I want to say thank you as well. Set those boundaries, have those conversations. If you're in a position or of leadership and you're not having constant check-ins with your employees, you're not a leader. You're just telling people what to do and not trying to make them follow you.
Yeah, absolutely. My advice is this. Just make sure if your gut is telling you something is off, listen a little closer. It probably is. Lauren, what you got for us to close this out? We're going to let you close this out today.
Amazing. First of all, thank you so much for having me on. This has been an absolute blast. I love you guys and I love the podcast. And so being able to contribute in this way has been so much fun. Thank you for letting me share my perspective. For anybody, honestly, that has listened to this, chimed in at any part of it, and is still like, I don't know how to do this. First, it's normal to not know how. Second, I stand by my point. Pick one thing. Pick one thing that you know that you can put into effect, you can change for yourself. And in the words of one of my very good friends, at the end of the day, what you do at your job does not matter as much as you think it does. And that might be painful to hear, but one day it all really just ends. So don't drive yourself into the ground knowing that one day nobody will even think twice about it. Just don't. Protect yourself first, for sure.
Don't forget to share your stories, everyone. Send your stories to stories@yourtwoval.com. You're welcome to drop us, a comment on any of our social media platforms. Next week's episode, I think this is going to be Greg's talking point because I can see the level of excitement in his face. Happy face!
Yes, next week is all about total compensation. What is total compensation? And it tells you what you're really worth, right? That's the whole tagline for that.
Or is it just the way the company doesn't have to pay you actual cash?
This is so sad. No. It is a true measure of your worth.
Mm-hmm. Let's just ask every other working force around the world.
I mean, I can't wait to hear that.
We should get an international person to come on the show. Anyway, I appreciate today, guys. I had so much fun. You guys have a great week. We'll see you next week. And go kick ass, take names, everybody. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.